Let's be honest, parenting can be messy and hard, but also so rewarding. In this podcast, we'll share all the ups and downs of parenthood, as well as share some of our favorite tips and tricks for parenting using both our experiences and expertise from our professional lives as a speech and language pathologist and teacher, but also our everyday lives as moms, just trying to balance it all. We're so glad you could join us.
Hi, and welcome to And Then We Had Kids. We are excited to have you guys join us again. I am Jenny.
And I'm Sheena.
And for those of you guys, we might have mentioned this, but often we record at night. So I was going to share a little bit about how my evening's been going and how bedtime routine went, because I am actually home without the kids. My husband is on a trip that hasn't happened in a while. I've been alone with my kids overnight before, and I've managed. But obviously as they get older, it's new challenges being by yourself. And so my youngest, he's like easy breezy. Still like give him a little cup of milk. We read a story. He goes down. My daughter.
That was not my youngest tonight.
Yeah, no.
Full on temper tantrum, like threw himself on the ground, bit me.
Oh, you got the whole shebang.
Yep.
So opposite, maybe your oldest one will be a breeze tonight then for you. Because
Let's
mine,
hope.
yeah, fingers crossed. So mine, she is often with her dad, like that's their special time together, and I love it. And she loves it. And so when it's time for her to go to bed, like she has all these little routines that they do. And I often like cut mine down, it's like, that's your thing with dad. Tonight it's mom. We're not going to do the 1,800 things that are on your list. And I made the mistake while she was brushing her teeth of pointing out in our medicine cabinet a box of Band-Aids. And I don't know if anyone who has kids, like Band-Aids are the best and the worst, because they can be a quick problem solver, or they're an item that kids often get really stuck on. And that's my child right now. And so she wanted to bring them into her room, which I allowed. And I said, you could find a spot. And then she couldn't decide. So I then said, you can put them in your nightstand or this pink bin that she has. Two choices. She still has the control of the situation.
Right.
She picks a great spot, one of those. I think she picked the nightstand. She got in her bed. We started telling some stories. Now like 15, 20 minutes has passed. I lie on her floor for a little bit. And she's quiet. And I think she's asleep. And I texted you being like, I'm almost ready. I'm trying to get out of her room.
Do you do like the army crawl out to like sneak out?
No, she ends up like falling asleep so I can walk out. But my husband has. He's like, I snuck out of the room. I think she's still asleep. We checked the monitor. But usually she's like out from the day. So tired. So then all of a sudden I see her like peeking over her bed. Like she has a little guardrail. And so she's peeking over and she's like, Mommy, like what? I need a Band-Aid. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need a Band-Aid. And so then she crawls like quietly. She shimmies out of her bed, gets the box of Band-Aids, and tries to like sneak them back into bed with her.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, nah, not happening. Like you're going to wake up in the middle of the night, try and put on a Band-Aid, freak out and wake up. And so then she starts to like lose it a bit. And I'm like, girl, you still have the same two choices. And then I was like, if you want to, you can go put him back in the bathroom and we'll just get him in the morning. So she walks out and then proceeds to like knock her hand on the door, her bedroom door, and goes, I need a Band-Aid. All I haven't like said anything. So then she gets a Band-Aid, then she's holding her hand up as if it's like she has this crazy injury that's just happened, like can't put it down. Her hand's just upwards. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna let this ride. So that was bedtime, but it was one of those where I'm like, oh my gosh, please just go to bed. I have a lot to get done.
Yep.
To go, also you have to go shovel. I have to put out the garbage and recycling. I have every, I think, play, fruit, and food item out from my play kitchen at this moment. So I'm just excited to talk about some other things. So that's just been how it's going. And those are my kids. So hopefully your oldest one tonight is just like a breeze.
He's usually not as bad. I mean, he will nightly like make the statement of, but I don't like sleep. And we're like, but mommy and daddy do.
Yeah.
So you're going to bed.
They
But
need
he's
it.
definitely like the baby's easy to put to sleep, but when he's tired, like he's just done. He like turns into a pumpkin at the stroke of midnight, or in this case, like the stroke of 6 p.m. And anything past like the 6 p.m., maybe 6:05 we can get him to. He just loses it, like
Yeah.
throws himself to the ground. Then of course he bonks his head on the floor,
Aww.
loses it some more. He wanted me to pick him up. I wasn't because I was like prepping the toddler's dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. Because
I
it's
got bit in the
6 p.m.
process.
Yeah.
I have a vampire for a child. So,
Yeah. Oh my
life.
goodness. Well, I mean, kids are what like makes us fall apart, and then we hold it together for them in like a span of 45 seconds. So
Yeah.
they're wonderful. But they are, and what I do love about my daughter is that I've talked about before, she often takes on like characters of movies that she loves, and she's really into things, and when she's into it, she's really into it. So we've been into Encanto, I said. We've been Frozen for a while. Raya and the Last Dragon
That's
is
a good one.
relatively new. But she did go through a phase where she loved, and I would say she still likes this movie, but we would watch it a lot, was Sound of Music.
Oh.
Yeah. And she wasn't
Little
anybody.
Julie Andrews fan, are we?
I mean, I didn't hate it until I watched Sound of Music for like 1,000 times. And I don't hate the movie. It was just, we had it on repeat and we watched the songs. The songs is what she loves. And so that got me thinking, kind of tied into our last episode where we got into a little bit about some of like our must-haves or things that we loved when we had one kid, when we had two kids, and Jasmine having multiple or lots of kids. And so I got to thinking of that wonderful song of my favorite things. And so thought that we would tonight share some of our favorite things, but not necessarily like the quote unquote essentials. Like everyone should do their research on what monitor they like, what like crib and what stroller, what car seat. Like obviously there are baby and toddler essentials.
Right.
But I thought we'd like dig a little deeper to some of those unique things that, now that we've had kids for like coming up on 4 years, what have we like looked back and been like, loved it.
Yeah.
I need to recommend this to all my friends.
So I'm going first, huh?
Well, I'm happy to share one. I was just thinking, I mean, every once in a while I just get the lyrics stuck in my head. And so I'm like, oh, beautiful. And so I'm happy to share one of mine, or you may kick it off and share one of yours.
I'll kick it off.
Go for it.
One of mine, and actually my kids, at least the baby still uses it. The toddler doesn't need it as much anymore. But we have a lot of like applesauce pouches, fruit pouches. One of my pregnancy cravings was the Go-Go Squeeze applesauce. Like I'm very particular about my applesauce. I think you know this about me. Yes. I also eat like a child. So,
which I support you. You would have the best snacks when we were pregnant. And
Gushers,
then when I had
fruit snacks,
when I had the gestational diabetes, it was so sad that I couldn't just like reach into your bag at certain times and get a snack. But
I consumed enough sugar for the both of us. So, but anyway, so we have a lot of just applesauce pouches, fruit pouches. Actually, you and I were talking the other night about how my youngest actually had some feeding issues for a little while, where we were contemplating whether or not to get a speech eval to help support with like feeding therapy. And for a while, like just pouches were the easy way to get him some quote unquote solids that aren't really technically solids, but whatever, that I knew would stay down.
Mhm.
And they're also just an easy like car snack or traveling. We're a family that loves to travel, and so pouches are just easy, right? Like
Yeah.
you can just throw a couple in your bag and be on your merry way. But what I hate about them is, especially until a toddler has like figured out how to hold them on the sides without like squeezing them so it shoots out the top, like you're left with like a very large mess, right?
Yeah.
So I received these as like a free try these and leave a review. And I actually loved them. So they're called Chew Me pouch toppers. You can get them on like Amazon or like little baby stores like Bye Bye Baby or whatever. But they're just little toppers that you put on the top of the pouch, and it has a flow control valve, so it really helps avoid like spillages.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, and then because they're made of, I don't know if it's like a silicone, but like it's a softer material. It's also great for teething.
Is this like a dishwasher friendly thing? Or you just like hand wash them?
I,
What do
I
you?
mean, I am a hand wash
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. Just
gal,
curious. Yeah.
but so
Oh,
I'm not
that's
sure if they're dishwasher friendly, but I mean,
yeah. If
hand
they're not,
wash,
I mean, if
old
you're
school.
washing all the other stuff,
Exactly.
like bottles and teethers and pacifiers, toss it in the little bowl in the sink.
Yeah.
That's nice. I have not tried those. I've heard of ones that like come with the slow flow. Um,
Yeah, no, these you can
but
stick on essentially any brand pouch,
that's huge.
applesauce,
So you're not having to like
anything.
buy two for your
Yeah.
like toddler and for your little one.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it because my youngest, I've tried to give them to him and he uses it as like a science experiment. So,
Yeah.
like the squeezing, not necessarily trying to eat, it's just the squeeze and to see
Squeeze
some
in
like the cause and effect.
right.
Like
What
that's
comes
pretty
out.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Thanks.
Oh. All right,
How
I'll
about
share one
you?
of mine. I had to like look up this name, and I think this was one that you had shared. And then after I used it, I proceeded to throw it in any like baby shower gift I was giving. Um, it is it's meant for a bottle, but I would often use it for toys. Is the sippy cup holder like strap
Oh,
leash?
like, yeah, like the tether
The
strap.
tether, yes.
Yes.
So, and the one that I found it had like a clasp, so you could hook it either around to like a stroller or like we used it when we were traveling. I attached it to my
Yep.
wrist and to a toy so that if my daughter at the time was playing with something, it wouldn't fall on the ground of the plane or it wouldn't like
Yeah.
roll around.
You can actually is connect it around the arm of the airplane tray.
Oh, like if you pull it out
Like
a
if you
little
open
bit.
up the tray on an airplane, there's like the little arm that connects it. You can connect it to
Yes.
that too.
So I found these like I ordered so many again. Find it on Amazon. On the picture, and it's like geared towards like a sippy cup holder or a bottle
Yep.
holder. But I found like certain toys I could like wrap it around and it's adjustable. And so I love those.
That one is clutch. That's definitely one of my favorites. You
Yeah.
can attach it when you're going for a walk to the stroller, whether it's the bottle or the toy. And that way, you know, my kid loves to throw things out of the stroller, right? And then
Yeah.
you're not having to
Yes.
worry about it getting dirty or getting lost.
Yeah. Or in like restaurants too, like being able to attach it to a high chair. Again, like
Mhm.
same concept of like how fun is it to just throw your cup on the floor and have
Right.
it roll around. And this just lets it like kind of you can just swing it back up.
Yep.
So that was one of my favorites.
That one's definitely a good one.
Yeah. What else do you got? What else do you like?
So I'm going to stick with the feeding trend. I used these for both of my kids. The younger one, again, having to go with his feeding issues. He also liked to make himself gag. The issue was that he would like gag to the point that he'd vomit. So that was not so much fun.
Right.
So like starting with feeding utensils, like forks and spoons was a little bit challenging because he'd just shove it so far back into his throat that he'd do the whole gag vomit thing.
Mhm.
And I remember that I had these from my older son when because so they're called grabbies feeding utensils, like grabbies, forks and spoons, and they have like like a guard to prevent them from choking so that they don't shove it too far
Oh,
in. And
yes.
the other piece I like about it is that the handle is shaped for like little hands to kind of grasp,
It
because they
almost
haven't
looks
nailed down that like the proper grip
yes.
on a utensil.
Yeah.
So it just kind of lets them like essentially like shove it in their fist.
Is that the one that's like a little is it shorter and has like a little like ball shape on the
Yep.
end versus
Yeah.
like the traditional fork shape?
Yep.
I think,
Versus
yeah.
like the long, like the elongated utensil. It's
Yes.
like a short little nubby little thing.
That's a good one. So you've had success with that of not
He
going
can't, yeah, I mean, he can't
yeah.
shove it all the way into the back of his throat. So, you
Oh,
know,
yeah. Well,
feeding in our household has been interesting this
well,
year.
it's one of those things where you don't know until you have to know either new or differently.
Yeah.
So I agree. One thing that I've loved are I'll skip away from feeding, but we might find our way back there. I have loved the indestructible books.
Those I love. And those are another
I
good one for like
Mhm.
traveling.
Yes, for traveling, throwing in your diaper bag, they don't take up a lot of room. Kids can like gnaw on them, rip them. I have like a couple versions that have clearly seen better days, but they still work.
Right?
Um,
They're indestructible.
yeah. So my youngest, he does love books, and in the sense of like loves to hold and like turn the page, right?
Yeah.
And I would hand him some in like the car seat. This was a while back when he was first teething, and I gave him like a board book, and he full on chewed the book like a little puppy dog. And I was like, what? I would like wherever I got to wherever I was going, I got him out of the car. I'm like, what the heck did you eat? It's literally like cardboard from the book.
Like just all
And
over his face.
like on his face, like he was like trying to get it out of his mouth. Like he's
Oh.
and I was like, okay, hold on. I know I'm smarter than this. Let me. So now then it was just indestructible books. Again, like he could like toss them in the car. I'm not worried about him like throwing him
Right.
off at his sister if she's sitting over there because they're really soft and malleable. So I love indestructible books.
Well, and that actually reminds me, like I actually haven't busted ours out
Mm-hmm.
with the baby. But we are planning a trip to Germany to visit my sister-in-law next
Put them
month.
on your packing
And
list.
so they're going in my packing list because one thing that I do when we travel is I always put in toys that the kids have like not seen before. So it's something novel that they get to open up on the plane. So whether it's a toy that obviously that we've had and the baby just hasn't seen it before, or whether it's a new toy, that's kind of one of my travel tips.
Smart. Let's hold on to that for
Yeah.
sure when we talk about traveling. But yes, that's smart to do.
Um, so along with the books, the one that you introduced me to that I love are those
Ooh.
polka dot books. So it's got like the
Oh
little
my.
bubbles of plastic that you poke. Um, those have been key for like car rides and just keeping someone occupied while I go help the other.
Yes.
We've got several of those now.
Those are great. I think again, I might have like 2 or 3 of them. The those ones that I have are like they're pretty big and bulky.
Yeah.
But they're great and they definitely keep kids entertained. Like my son will pull that book out and just sit there and you just hear that like popping
Yeah.
sound. So the one and I like the big ones because there are more dots to poke.
Well, and I
Um
like it too because the baby likes to throw things and it's like almost too heavy for him to throw in the car. So,
That's true too. It's gonna be sitting on his lap.
yeah.
They do make like smaller ones where
Yeah.
my son got one and I didn't know that. Just because I liked these ones have like countdowns to them too. And so I didn't know. And so my son got one for Christmas this year and it just is like shaped, but it just has like one dot in the middle.
Oh, okay.
But I do love those books.
Those are good ones.
Um, I have these other books. I don't know if I have gotten any of these ones for your kids before, but they are like these music books, um, in that they have like a little button to push, and there's like Mozart, there's like my first book of classical music, my
Ooh.
first book of music from around the world. Hold on, I'm actually gonna grab one so I can make sure I'm saying the name. Um,
I feel like I would really enjoy this being a
they
music
are
person.
so cute. Um, Marion Belay is the author. So they are these little push the buttons. And I'm like literally giving Sheena a show right now as we're recording. But
Sorry, listeners, you don't
yeah,
get to
right.
see it.
But they have these beautiful pictures, and then there's this one dot on each page, and the kids push it, and it plays like a little snippet of classical music. There's one for Mozart, like I said. There's one about instruments, but
Oh,
it is so cute. So the one I have of classical music in my hands, it's like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and you hit the button, and it plays a little
okay. So when we're done
snippet.
recording, can you text that to me so I
Yes,
can
and I will
add
post
it to
this.
my Amazon
Um,
cart?
Yeah, these are great. And you're able to turn the music on and off in the back as well. So you
Huh.
don't like they can also just be a book to look at if you're somewhere that's not needing sound.
Yeah.
Um, but I've brought these books to when my oldest has gymnastics and I take the little one with me. Like these can entertain him for quite some time. So he loves these books.
Nice.
So again, I don't know, but it's like I love classical music, but these are awesome.
Hmm. I'm
It's
gonna have to
not
get
too
some.
loud. So
Okay.
that's key.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the other thing that I really liked and I found really helpful, um, for both my kids, but especially like for, trying to navigate the two by yourself, are those sit me up seats. And I feel like when our toddlers were born, those were like newer. There were only like a couple different models out. And now I feel like there's a lot more just options for them. Like they have some that have trays to them that you could use to feed, or they have little activity bars. So we just had like the simple frog one. And I think the one we had was from Fisher Price.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, we had one too, and we definitely called it the frog seat.
Yeah, like it was just easy because when my nieces were little, my sister used the bumpo seat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like chunky babies, first of all, I love chunky babies, and I'm actually very disappointed. Neither of my children were very chunky as infants. But I've heard that like chunky babies like struggle to sit in those, like their thighs that all those rolls that I am obsessed with,
Yeah. I
don't fit.
yeah, I
But I don't
didn't
know because I didn't
go
have
that
chunky babies
route.
or that seat, but
There was something about that, and I mean I should do my research. But yeah, similar like does it fit? Is it great for like
like
development, like
right,
hip
like
development? I don't know. I think
yeah.
I read something somewhere, and as a parent, or maybe I was pregnant, I was like, well, I can't get that one.
Yeah.
And so,
Because you
not to
you
say
do all of
it
that
wouldn't work,
research,
but yeah.
but you do all of that research before one, right? Like, and
Yes.
then you're like, no, I can't add that to my baby registry, or
Yes.
that's not beneficial for their long-term development. And then baby two comes around and you're like, I don't care.
It's fine. It's on sale.
They're alive.
Yeah, exactly. No, we had the frog seat too, and I loved it. And you know, my daughter was like tiny for a very long time, but she was like language wise, she was understanding a lot really early on. Her expressive language was great from a really young age. So like the seat allowed her to like my parents would put it on like their kitchen counter, like it was big
Yeah, so did
enough.
we.
And so like she could sit there and hang and be part of whatever was going on versus like sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't like an infant. So I agree that seat I think I also recommend to like anybody who
Yeah.
is looking, and I want to say it's also relatively
It's like
reasonable in
relatively, yeah.
price.
Yeah. And I would say too, one of the things that I highly recommend, and I don't I didn't do this enough with baby number 1, but I have done it a lot more with baby number 2, is if there's something I'm not sure whether or not the baby is gonna like, and I don't feel like forking out all of the money for it, is finding it used on Facebook Marketplace,
I 100% agree with
right?
that.
Like, I got the what is it? Like, the 4 moms, like, Mamaroo,
The
that
Mamaroo.
the
Yeah.
Mamaroo, and it was expensive, and I just wasn't I'm like, "Watch me spend all of this money, and my kid's not even gonna like it," and luckily, I found, like, someone selling it used for a very reasonable price, and the baby loved it,
Mhm.
but I always recommend, like, just look on Facebook Marketplace, especially when it comes to like the swings and the bouncers and the things like that, where you're not sure the baby's actually going to like it. Cause like we talked about with Jasmine on the last episode, right? Like she was saying, like the bouncer was like the key for her kids because some babies like swings and some don't.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, there's all different kinds of swings.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
like
So you
even
could,
just like clothes, like coats and stuff that kids outgrow so fast because they grow
yeah.
like weeds. I always
Yeah.
say, check
I
out
feel like
Facebook
in the
Marketplace.
moment you are so willing to try anything and everything, which is
Yes.
what we did. And you introduced me to like Facebook Marketplace, and I similarly found Mamaroo seat for incredibly well priced and great condition. And
Yeah.
I've shared it with my friend for her 2 babies. Like I'm offering it to my sister who is expecting her second. And it's just like one of those, like, once you have it, then you can be a great resource to like friends and other
Right.
moms.
Like I
Um,
remember even just posting about how like the baby was struggling to sleep and we had used a different bassinet for the toddler that got recalled. And so I didn't feel comfortable using it.
mhm.
And someone that that is friends with my sister-in-law reached out and she was like, "Hey, I have the Halo bassinet. Would you want to borrow it?" Like, and she lent it to me for however many weeks that we used it. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done without it, especially because I unexpectedly had a C-section with the baby, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
things I wasn't thinking about or planning.
Right.
So
But I do think that shifts from the first to the second. The first, you're like, no, I definitely need everything new. And
yeah.
I was the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
And now, I mean, the first snowstorm that hit, my son was rocking a floral
He was.
snowsuit. And I was like, who cares? Like if it was my first, I'd be like, no, no, like not happening. I have to go out and buy one. But it's like, no, let's go out in the snow. Come on, we have things here.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely second the check out Facebook Marketplace, reach out to friends who've had kids because a lot of stuff is sitting in basements
It's
or in
right in
storage.
storage.
And it's not like people are maybe they are going to use it again, maybe they're not, but oftentimes
Right.
like works out. Like if you're not going to use it for the 3 months that somebody might need that swing, that 3 months is rough, but with a swing it's a little bit easier. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely utilize resources for some of this stuff, especially the big things.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
um another thing that we have loved um is our kitchen helper. I see more
Yeah.
of like one like toddler phase. Um, so it's just this like little stand that push up against the kitchen counter. It has like an opening that kids, when they're old enough, can crawl up on and stand on. And then they're like eye level with the counter. But you can also flip it, and there's like a mesh part so kids can be kind of enclosed in that area, so you don't have to worry about them toppling off and climbing out. And it has, I think, really helped our kids be a part of what's going on when we're cooking, when we're baking, even when we're cleaning, or if we're prepping for like family night dinners. And that we've just really loved having that in our kitchen.
Yeah, we enjoy that one too.
Mhm. Anything else on your list or that you were
Um,
thinking about?
no, I mean, I think one thing I always love was just a good baby carrier. Like,
I had that too.
yeah, and I've had several.
Yes,
But I think
same.
it's finding the one that you like, right? Like I used the boba wrap when both my kids were like tiny little infants.
Hmm.
But and then I've got I think like 3 other more like structured carriers that I use
Yeah.
now, kind of just depending on how quickly I want to throw something on or
Yes. Yeah, I use the Wild Bird sling. I don't know if you ever heard of that brand.
I have
It
heard
has
of it,
like
but I haven't
the
tried it.
I did like it with my first, and she was, again, I keep saying she was small, still is little petite firecracker. So she was
Petite in
tiny.
size, not in personality.
No, definitely not. And so I liked that with her. Like I at the time I only had like the big structured carriers and then that
Yeah.
one. And obviously with the big structured one, I felt like she was just gonna like fall out of it when we were traveling with her when she was 3 months old. But what was tough is that the ring on it is metal. So if you do travel with it, you have to take it off for security.
Yeah.
Again, it was okay for us because she was so small that I could like hold her in one arm and finagle the sling off with the other. Um, and with my second, I did use it like once or twice, but then when it came to the point that I wanted to like actually like baby carry, I think for me, I just couldn't quite get the hang of it with him because he was so squirmy
Yeah.
that the carrier was key.
Yeah. We
Like the,
definitely and like I said in the last episode too, like navigating 4 flights of stairs in the city
I mean,
with
that
my 2
it's
kids.
incredible.
Um,
Wonder Woman over here.
baby wearing is very helpful for me to free up some hands. I even, we live in Chicago. We have wonderful cold weather here. But I have a maternity coat that you can actually continue to wear after you've had the baby. And so I can baby wear him while wearing this winter coat. So it's always
Is
this
that the
cute
one?
little,
I think I got somewhat, granted, we have a lot of the same stuff.
yeah,
It's the one
this is
with
our
the
life.
insert, right?
Yeah.
It kind
It's
of
like
reminds me,
Seraphine maternity.
yeah, it reminds me of the one that's really has been trending this past winter, the Amazon coat. Have
Oh,
you seen that
yes, I
one?
have.
Um, did you say you have it?
No, I've seen it
Oh,
though.
oh,
Yeah.
oh. Yeah, so I'd say, oh, good, you should use that one too. But it's kind of similar in that style, like it's a nice big, warm coat, but it
Yeah.
has this like insert that is great that you can put your baby the sling on, and then or your carrier, and then your coat over it. And
Yep.
so that's
So sometimes,
I
if
really like
we're
that coat.
because the baby only goes to daycare part-time. So if he and I are, headed to go pick up the toddler,
Hmm.
just bundle him up right in my jacket.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other things that have been on my list. We had a couple of the same things. Think of what else. I know it's really you have the I think like the automatic one. But I have
You're going
used
for the nasal aspirator, aren't you?
yeah, the nose Frida is
Oh,
incredible.
it is, but it is so, I'm sorry. I mean, any nasal aspirator. Yes, I switched to
Oh
the electronic one,
my gosh, but you
but you
as a
still
parent,
see
I
all of
think
it.
it all right, but wouldn't you rather have all of that snot and grossness out before nap time before bed? 100% you would. So I
Yes.
remember, so for people who don't know this, Nose Frida, I mean, they have a couple of different brands and kinds. Like the old school one is like the ball, the
The
suction
bulb,
ball.
right.
And then there's been several upgrades. And then Nose Frida brand has a couple different kinds. And there's now automatic one where you can just kind of shove this thing up the kid's nose and like sucks things out, like a little
Yeah.
mini vacuum. The old school way of that is
It is
that
the
there's this
snot
tube,
sucker.
this knot sucker where you just stick it up your kid's nose and then you are responsible for sucking out all the
The boogers.
boogers. Yeah.
The boogers.
And you have to make sure that you have this filter in or else you'll be sucking up
In it
snot.
in. And so I think that's why I switched. I was pregnant with the second and I saw some like social media video and
Okay.
it could have been staged. Either way, the
It was
person
also,
sucked up the boogers and it freaked me out. And I switched to the electric nasal
all right.
aspirator. And you know
Yes.
what? It works for my family.
I bet it does. I mean, I'm gonna go with that video is human error. Not if you use the
For
nose screw
sure.
to the snot sucker the right way, it's fine. But I remember doing it to my daughter like the first time, and I think our good friend was there and she can vouch for this. My daughter was laughing hysterically at it. Not
And
anymore. Not
but I've
anymore,
heard
but
other parents say that too. Like, oh, when we use the snot sucker, like they loved it and they actually get excited when they see it because they know they're going to be able to breathe. And I'm like, who are you people? My kids hated it.
no, now they don't like it. Now it's like it's a 2-parent operation. One holding the kid, one doing like the snot sucking. So
So what we use actually now is the Oogie Bear, which
you
I
have
actually
told
didn't.
me about this.
I actually
And
did
I
not
need
have
to
this on my
invest in it.
list, but now I'm
Yeah.
adding it to my list. Is the
There you
Oogie
go.
Bear, and it's just a little kind of like almost like a reusable swab. It's not cotton, it's like silicone or whatever. But there's a
Uh-huh.
little hook at the end that you can use to dig out the boogers, or you can also use it to like clean out the earwax. So we use the Oogie Bear. And the
I
way
have
my kids get a little bit more on board with it is that we have 2 different colors and they get to pick the color of the Oogie Bear. And then my
fancy.
husband and I essentially like perform surgery to dig out the boulders in our kids' noses. It's disgusting.
But again, you're going to be doing these things if it can lead to a greater chance of sleeping through the night, you do it, you know?
Fair
Like
enough.
it's something that you might not have wanted to do, but you're going to do it. If you don't have to get up at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and just be able to sleep through the night.
It's worth it to use the Oogie Bear or the snot
Yes,
sucker.
exactly. So yeah, those are some of our like favorite things, essentials, things that we didn't think that we needed, that we use regularly and recommend to anybody who is wanting something off the beaten path or something a little bit different on a baby registry, something to think about. We'd love to hear from people if there's anything that you have found essential or just been like a lifesaver for
Yeah.
your babies or toddlers.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all of the latest, you can follow us on Instagram @_andthenwehadkids. Thanks again, and like we say, life used to be carefree, and then we had kids.